Well, there's always lots of things going on in Washington, and boy, taxes is one that, whether you're in the beef business or production agriculture, really just trying to make a living, is something that's very concerning. And so we're going to talk about that and a couple of other issues with Kent Bacus, who is Assistant Director of Legislative Affairs for the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. Well, at Kent, we have a new Congress, and with that brings new ideas, but there's still some things that I know NCBA has been working on for a long time, is reform in some of the tax rules and regulations to make it easier to do business in America.
You're exactly right. I mean, our tax code is over 30 years old, and it doesn't represent the needs of the 21st century economy, especially in rural America. And we were excited that Congress finally passed an extenders package at the end of 2014 that, extended, among many things, Section 179 financing and expensing. That creates a lot of opportunities for our producers out there who want to make those purchases. Fortunately, Congress is not waiting long. They've already started acting, introducing some legislation to make that permanent. And so the House is supposed to vote here very soon on making the Section 179 expensing permanent, and the Senate is supposed to follow soon after. The important thing there also is that the White House introduced that as part of their budget as well. So you see a lot of strong bipartisan support in both houses, and hopefully that's something that we can have here pretty soon and provide more permanency for our producers.
Transportation is another issue, not only as we think of things as simple as getting exports out. In the West Coast has been a big issue, but also we see the situation with NAFTA as more of those rules come into place with some of the Mexican trucks, and I'm sure there are a myriad of issues in transportation. So talk about what might go on, what might be the agenda now in Congress.
Well, when you think about our industry, we're one of the few parts of the ag industry where we have production in every state. From Florida to Hawaii, we're raising cows in every state. Well, how do we get them to market? That's a fundamental thing that we have to do. If we can't get our products to market, then it's hard for us to have any kind of livelihood from that. So one of the big things we have been working on, this goes back a few years, but it's been on truck weights. For a lot of our producers, we raise a lot of cows and a lot of calves in the East and West Coast. We have a lot of feed yards in the central United States. Well, we don't move them by train anymore. We haven't done that in a long time. We move them by truck. We want to get those animals as safely as possible and as quickly as possible to those feed yards, where about 90% of what we're producing is finished. And the best way to do that is to allow states to designate which corridors should have higher truck weights with an additional 6 axle to compensate for that braking capacity. And so we're trying to have that move through Congress. The United States Department of Transportation is currently conducting a truck weight study to look at whether that's feasible. They've been dragging their feet, and we need them to go ahead and release that study so that we can look at it and see if the science merits increasing those truck weights. And if so, we need Congress to act immediately in the highway reauthorization to make that happen. That's a big thing for us. Another important issue, and one that I know is a lot more timely, has to do with USDOT's 30-minute rest period. As you remember, that was always it's always a big headache for us. We're fortunate last year to be able to get a 1-year exemption from that rule. Well, that expires at the end of May. And, the last thing we want is to have cows that are over on the side of the road for long periods of time like that, during especially some of the hotter months and colder months, and putting them at risk just to comply with the law. We need laws that make sense, and we need laws that encourage safety and encourage compliance with the law. So we're going to continue to work with DOT and members of Congress to try to get an exemption and ultimately, full repeal of that for the livestock sector. So that'll continue to be a top priority for us in 2015.
All right, Kent Bacus with NCBA is joining us. Well, Kent, a little over time, so let's talk. You mentioned the budget. Let's talk about one of the proposals that I'm sure, as it continues to see the light of day, will have a lot of reaction, and that is putting food safety as under one agency. Pulling some things out of USDA doesn't maybe seem most favorable to agriculture.
Well, that seems to be a big concern for us. The Food Safety Inspection Service housed at USDA has done a good job, done an incredible job, and is an important part of our industry. We want to make sure that the expertise lies in the agencies where it should. And we want Congress to really engage with the industry and find out how our folks really feel about that, because at the end of the day, we're going to be the ones that have to comply with that rule. And obviously, we want to put a safe product on every plate, and we want consumer confidence in that. Does that mean that we're going to need to restructure the whole government? I mean, we've got a lot of other issues that we need to be working on too. One of the other big issues that happened in the president's budget was this deals with the estate tax. And one of the most important things is that, the president has proposed to eliminate the step-up in basis. And for agriculture, that's a very important thing, because when you consider the carryover basis that would take place, that's going to create just an immense tax liability for our farmers and ranchers, and essentially create another capital gains tax on top of a punitive death tax. So we're going to continue to fight to make sure that that doesn't happen as well.
All right, Kent, we'll keep up the fight. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Kent Bacus with the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. That's the Ag View from San Antonio. I'm Ken Rahjes.